next film here is a very different film in a lot of ways. It is the latest film directed and co-written by Paul Verhoeven. Paul Verhoeven being somebody who we love to see. Celebrated director.
Yeah, he's back.
He is back with Benedetta.
Yeah.
The first nunsploitation mainstream film in quite a while. I don't know if you could call it mainstream, but mainstream adjacent.
Sure. I mean, were the nunsploitation movies even mainstream? Those were always kind of more of like a grindhouse sort of thing, right? Is that what you're referring to?
Fair enough. But was there never like a big nunsploitation film ever? You're right, Sisters Act 2.
Well, I was going to say, are you counting the Sister Acts in that? Or are you talking more like pornographic?
I'm talking more of the pornographic. Yeah, right. Yeah. That was an era. For
I guess more, that'd be more, this is more kind of softcore, I guess. This isn't like this isn't actual pornography or anything.
This wouldn't play at like a stag theater or something like that in the 60s, 70s. Now that said, Paul Verhoeven's made a lot of films. All right. He hasn't written a ton of films. But
I guess not. Yeah.
No, I think only like a handful, not even half.
His recent stuff, he's had more of a hand as far as the writing process, I think.
Well, not L. He didn't write L.
Okay,
right?
But I thought he wrote his did he write Black Book?
He wrote Black Book, yeah.
Okay.
And Tricked.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
But then before that, like he didn't write anything since like the 80s. So he just, he doesn't have a pen. He lost it. But no, his last film was L from 2016, 5 years back. Did you like L, Ashton?
Yeah, good film.
I don't remember if I liked it.
Why not?
I didn't have Letterboxd at the time, so I don't have like a set Letterboxd review. I remember seeing it in the theater and just not. I don't think I have an opinion. So I don't know.
It's kind of a thorny film, I guess, given the subject matter. But I think it's weird. That's the type of film that I think even he was just like, I expect this one to be one of my more controversial, divisive films, and that was like one of his more well-received, like unanimously praised films, and he was just kind of like, oh really, like no, he's not gonna fight it, but he's kind of like, oh really, like this is the one that, like Starship Troopers, that gets a divisive response, Showgirls, that gets a divisive response, but that's fawning praise, and I think rightfully so, but just for him that's kind of surprising.
His biggest films, like you mentioned, Starship Troopers, huge film for him, great satire, one of those like sneaky satires. Showgirls, like you said, of course, Total Recall, RoboCop.
Yeah,
he's made other films, but those are definitely among the top of the top in terms of public awareness.
Basic Instinct is a big one. Yeah, that's a big one.
I forgot one.
Yeah, I think the big ones to compare this one to are probably Basic Instinct, Showgirls, and Black Book, right?
I haven't seen Black Book, so I mean, because that was 15 years ago, I want to say. So yeah, I never got to that film.
Sure.
But yeah, I think you're right. I think what's interesting to me about his films, just in general, is that I just think he's so good at making films that are really outlandish and just going over a certain type of person's head where people will take it seriously. And then the people who don't take it seriously are loving it the most because they see what he's doing. It's the same thing. Like for me, that was Starship Troopers, like having that moment when like rewatching the film, I'm like, oh, like there is a way, like, especially when you're a kid, to take that movie as just like a standard kind of sci-fi romp with, friends, learning to deal with, loss and the struggles of war. But then you watch it as an adult in a totally different way.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of hard to see that movie as anything less than goofy. But I think
not when you're a kid, though, right?
I guess
or if you are the kind of person that the film is criticizing or, parroting.
Right, but I guess you're saying that's like you could see that with like something like watch it with Men in Black, which is also a great film, but you could watch that and be like, oh, it's just like a fun, goofy kind of alien romp, whatever.
Right, where people watch it like unironically, kind of, like they're not in on the joke. I think that's something he's great at. I think he's doing that with Benedetta. Yeah. This nun film, it takes place in the 17th century during the Black Plague, which actually, now that I'm thinking about that, 17th century wasn't the Black Plague. That was like Renaissance, wasn't it?
I'm by no means a history buff, so
when I was watching the film, I took it because the bubonic plague is happening, unless it's like a different plague.
Sure.
Maybe they didn't say Black Plague, because if it was that, this would be taking place in like the 1300s, 1400s.
Let's just say he takes some artistic liberties with several things in this movie.
I'll have to do a fact, because I'm not a historical expert either, and this is based on a real person named Benedetta. Of course, artistic liberties across the board. It's actually to the point where it's kind of funny, a thing that happens at the very end where you're just like, really? You're gonna do that? In terms of tying this to real events in the way that he does. But anyway, this is about an Italian convent that takes in a new novice. We see her first as a young girl named Benedetta, and I forget, I don't know the young actor's name, but she's eventually played by Virginie Efira, and she is a very devout nun. Like she plays things by the book, capital B book. We're talking about the Bible. She lives her life in full devotion to the Lord, to the point where she literally has visions of like action star Jesus coming in and saving her from bandits.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
I mean, she takes the idea that she's married to Christ rather literally. Let's put it this way.
It's amazing. I mean, I just want to get this off the bat. This film is amazing. Like, I'm bowing down to it as we speak. Maybe that's sacrilegious.
I mean, I'm quite fond of it as well, but I will talk about that more once you finish.
I'm so excited. I can't even finish the setup.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Sorry. No, but so she is a nun in this Italian convent, and she, things kind of change though when as her life, she's like becoming a bit of an older nun now. She's in I want to say her 30s. There is a new novice who comes to town, and she
30s?
notices. I want to say she was in her 30s. Maybe she was in her 20s.
I thought she was like early to mid 20s.
Maybe I could just be totally misjudging because the actress herself is in her 40s, and I don't think they're going there. But
yeah, maybe you're right because it was 18 years after the beginning of the film. So yeah, I guess it would be around her 30s. Yeah, you're right.
Well, they kind of play it too, where she's a little bit older, but she's not old. And there's a new novice who comes in who is younger. She is kind of in her 20s. It's definitely hinted at. And her name is Bartolomea. She's played by Daphne Patachia, who I recognized in this movie, but I wasn't sure who she was. I think she's maybe a Greek actress. I'm actually not totally sure. For Virginie Efira, I don't think I've seen any of her films before, but I know I recognize her too from a couple of things I've probably seen in a trailer.
Yeah, she has kind of a distinctive look. She's obviously conventionally beautiful, but there's something also kind of wild about her eyes that's kind of intriguing in a weird. You know what I mean by that at all? Yeah.
Was she in Elle actually? She might have been in that.
Yeah, one of these two actresses was also in Elle. I'm trying to remember who it was.
I think it was her, and I'm just kind of forgetting. It's been a while.
Sure.
But yeah, I was going to bring this up. I did look this up. I saw somebody tweet about it, and I wanted to make sure, and I wanted to spring this on you. Did you know that she did the French dub for not one, but two Garfield movies?
Oh, nice. I did not know that. Who did she voice? Normal?
She voiced Liz.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Cool. All right.
Look at that.
Yeah.
I just wanted to give you a little dose of sugar in your day.
Yeah. That's fun. That's fun. Yeah.
For listeners who don't know, Will likes Garfield more than most. Okay.
More than most?
Yeah, I would say.
Garfield's a very popular comic strip, John.
Okay. All right. I'm not going to go there. So basically, this film, it sort of is about how these two women sort of form a bit of a taboo, unconventional bond. I don't want to say that it's just a straight up lesbian love affair, because I think there's much more to it than that. But I think you can tell that's what this movie is pretty quickly. I don't want to say much else, but basically this film becomes mayhem. It becomes paranoia. Basically, this woman in a power struggle for the future of the Catholic Church. And it's brilliant. Brilliant film.
Yeah. The thing as we've basically alluded to earlier, what I always find fascinating about Paul Verhoeven, and something that delights me to no end that continues in his filmography with this film, is that people sometimes try to dismiss him as a provocateur, someone who's just, basically trying to get a rise at people.
Yeah. Lowest common denominator, that kind of cheap filmmaking. And
is he going for cheap thrills? Certainly. I mean, he would not argue against that, right? He's obviously, he has a style. He likes to play things up, very theatrical, very over the top, very grandiose, and he doesn't shy away from that. But I don't think he makes a movie just to get a rise out of people. I don't think his movies are ever trying just to be exploitation for the sake of exploitation. Not that they would be lesser if they were, but I'm saying that I think, as we mentioned with Starship Troopers, like with RoboCop, like with any number of his films, he is using these sort of risque, taboo subjects, but he's talking about things that are obviously a lot deeper, something that interests him more thematically. And I think this film, as we'll talk about for certain variety of reasons, is no exception. And it just delights me that he's 83, I think, at this point, and he's still just coming out and making a movie like this cheeky, this mischievous, this this impish almost. But he's like this, this perverted old man that's just still doing this. It's very fun. I'm just very grateful to have Paul Verhoeven still making movies like this right now.
I agree with you so much. And I want to be clear about something. First of all, I'm gonna do my best to avoid saying very specific things that happened in this movie because, I watched it pretty fresh, right? And like seeing these things happen for yourself is a gift, especially if you are the kind of person that this movie is gunning for. I obviously think that a lot of people will watch this and be horrifically offended and not enjoy it. I would not recommend it to anyone in my family whatsoever.
Right.
Very few people I would recommend it to.
Yeah, I mean,
but,
there are a few protests already happening for the film, at least in certain theaters. I think it's not like a Dogma situation where people are like getting on the news about it.
Cuties.
No, I'm just talking from a Catholical standpoint, like for people from the Catholic Church protesting it. It's not like something like Dogma where they're like getting on the news because they're protesting it. It's just kind of more just like this one like local theater is just getting, like one or two local theaters are getting bombarded by people protesting the film for reasons I guess kind of understand, but it's also just like, aren't there bigger fish to fry right now? Not to make it a biblical pun, but
we have an actual plague. We don't need to go after the movie that has a plague in it. Yeah. So I want to say, I think that we've had some fun. We've had some laughs in terms of just how tired the lesbian love affair movie sort of subgenre has been, how lazy it's really been over the last, really not just the last 10 years, last 15 to 20 years, really since, filmmakers have felt a little bit more bolder or brazen to like bring these stories to a bigger audience because, we are seeing more equality, more acceptance of these stories on film than we did before. And I think that filmmakers are generally getting better at that form of representation. That said, there is still this piece of like lesbian movie that just keeps getting made in terms of like you have these two women and they want to be together, but they can't. And it's formulaic. It's like we know the beats, we know how it's all going to play out. And not since, though, I would say Portrait of a Lady on Fire have we gotten one that really like shakes it up and is about so much more than just that easy, like we want to be together, but we can't. That's the conflict. What's going to happen? 90% of those movies end the same way. It's boring stuff. Mm-hmm. But this movie is so much more about the relationships between women romantically and platonically. Charlotte Rampling is the other lead actor here, she plays the abbess, and she like the leader of the convent. And she is like, I think, sneaky great in this movie, like truly captivating to behold.
Charlotte Rampling, I mean, she's always great.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
I wouldn't say not sneaky great like Charlotte Rampling good in a movie, but more so like when you first meet her, you think she's one kind of character and she's just going to hit those beats the way you expect. But no, she comes in and like brings it in a totally different way than I was expecting, at least.
I mean, like I said, I think she's always great, and I think she excels at these type of characters. I felt that was part of the course. Like when I saw, not that she gets pigeonholed to certain type of roles, but I think she obviously excels at this type of character. And so when I saw her cast in this part, I'm like, I'm assuming this is where it's going to go. And sure enough, yeah. So,
well, I think it's so much more than that, though. She's not just like a grump who's like, I don't want them to be together. It's like so much deeper and more interesting than that.
Right. And, but that's what she excels at. Like, I feel like she plays a lot of those type of characters to great success, obviously. But I feel like that's like the Charlotte Rampling magic, right? You know what I mean?
I guess, but I mean, I don't know. I think I've got something a little bit more unique out of it than it sounds. I don't know. It's hard to talk about it, right? Without
I just think that it's not that I think I got less out of it. I think Charlotte Rampling is just so adept at like playing this type of character. But like obviously, like I think she's just a great actress in general. I think that's basically what I'm trying to say.
Well, we agree there. This film, it premiered at the Cannes Film Festival. It was in the competition for the Palme d'Or. Obviously, it did not win. But I do think, though, a lot of the films I've seen this year, I would say Benedetta is one of the more surprising ones. It is a provoking film, despite what, we were both kind of saying before. I don't think it's trying to be provocative for the sake of being provocative, though. Did you get that kind of sense? Like, did you get the sense that this film is like doing something kind of different, or do you feel like it's just better at doing something that's already been done before?
I think it's Verhoeven being Verhoeven, in that I think he indulges in the kind of what's the word I should be looking for here? The kind of crass exploitive qualities of the film, but like he doesn't look down on the fact that a movie can be a little risque and lean into like these nunsploitation cliches or expectations. But at the same time, as we were mentioning earlier, I think he's not going in this for a cheap rise, you know what I mean, either for himself or for the audience. Like, I think he's obviously very thoughtful in what he wants to say here. I think he tackles he uses those expectations to feed into his broader ideas and what he wants to say with this character. And I think it's just a testament to how good of a filmmaker he is, that he can kind of have the best of both worlds here. He can make a movie that is provocative and taboo and play to the cheap seats in some of that ways, but he's also very thoughtful, and he can make a film that is talking about religion in a very elaborate and dense way. And so it just, that's what I expect from Paul Verhoeven, and so it wasn't quite a surprise for me to see him pull it off. It's just a great joy that he's still able to pull it off, I guess.
Actually, I want to say real quick, too, because I've been comparing this to other films like Portrait, and I was thinking of like other films like The Handmaiden during this, but I do think it's kind of its own thing. And I think there's a lot of really good stuff in here about just religion and how to grapple with religion. It's amazing to see from an 83-year-old man, who, again, he did write this. And I just think that he has something so progressive and, interesting to say about the Catholic Church, that just sort of, it's not simplistic. It's not just being like, this is all bad, this is all terrible. He's showing a person who, like, her life, the thing that she desires conflicts with the other thing that she desires, and she decides to never compromise on it. And there's just something very interesting, I think, about doing that and using power to get what you want in a world that doesn't want it. And then it all sort of happens in a very interesting cinematic way. There's a lot of spectacle in this movie, a lot of intrigue. So I was pretty with this movie. Yeah. Seeing it on the screener and everything. And then I was engrossed with this film, even when it was gross. I really dug it.
Yeah. I mean, as I think you're suggesting, like, there is a way that he could have tackled the Catholic Church, where it's like looking down upon it and being like, oh, how foolish to, believe in such things and all that. And I think he clearly
a little self-righteous.
Sure. There you go. There's some more puns. There's some more puns. But I mean, I think the man, I don't know if he's talked about religion in his other films. I think he's actually, I don't know if you've heard about this. Apparently he wrote a novel about Jesus. Like, it's like kind of like a reimagining of the Jesus story. And it came because I guess he had like a few month period where he felt like he was actually having a conversation with Jesus, which is really funny when you think about this film. Like, the fact that he had almost kind of a similar experience, you know what I mean? Is pretty fascinating stuff. But I think
doesn't he want to like actually adapt that into a movie?
Yeah,
I remember when he wrote it. It was like a decade ago or something, and he wanted to.
Right. Yeah, but I mean, well, for sure. But apparently, his next film is like a erotic thriller based in Washington D.C., but it's going to be from the writer of RoboCop and Starship Troopers. So I hope both come to be. I mean, I kind of thought this would be his last film, to be perfectly frank. So if I'm happy if he can make another film at all, but either of those sound fantastic. So I hope they both come to be.
If he's got more in the tank, let's see it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, like, I hope he's like Clint Eastwood, just like making movies at 90, and as long as they're as good as this, I hope. I mean, like, as far as the religious allegories and the commentary therein, I think he, as I was saying before, I think he just finds a really fine balance that only a filmmaker like Verhoeven can pull off, where it is critical but not scathing of the Catholic Church or religion in general, and it can lean into these genre expectations and play up the kind of smiliness of the film, but have neither really conflict with what he's trying to say. By and large, if anything, they obviously complement one another. Like, it's this mix of high and low art in a way that is really, really fascinating. And like I said, only a director, I think, like Paul Verhoeven, could really pull that off so successfully. Yeah. So there you go.
I think that's the trick that he pulls off with this movie, that he pulls off in a lot of other movies, and it's funny, but it's not like a stupid kind of silly. Like, it's smart. And it actually has an intelligent thing to say, but it also has a really good sense of humor. Like, the outrageous things that we're seeing on screen aren't there for no reason. They actually like all serve the joke but not just the joke, but like the message too. I think that he's just really good at genre hybrids, and it's cool to see him do a genre hybrid like this, that, it has a signature style. It hits hard in a way where, you're always entertained by it, but it just feels to me like every scene kind of like goes together in a really, intelligent way. But at the same time, it's Paul Verhoeven. It's irreverent. It's not the kind of film that like you watch and it feels like it's a capital I important movie, but it just feels like a movie that he made and did his best at. And so I can't help but really have a heart for it. And so, yeah, he's still making good movies.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, because it's like there are several things in this movie where I can imagine select audiences being like, "Do we really need X, Y, Z in this?" And I think, based on what I've read from Paul Verhoeven being interviewed in the past and with this film, it's just like, do we need graphic sex scenes with this movie? I guess not, but that's just what I wanted to do.
Do you need anything in any movie?
Right, exactly.
I love that response.
Right,
it's so
exactly.
great.
Yeah, and that's just like that just sums up Paul Verhoeven in general. Like, I think everything is very deliberate and thoughtful, but he's also like I say, sort of impish and almost, I guess, devilish in that way, where he's just like,
he's mischievous. He's a mischievous old man.
Right. He's just like, well, why not? Like, I mean, I like, would it be a lesser film without him? Like, maybe, I don't know who, but like, he wants to, and it makes it more of a Paul Verhoeven film, and that's certainly something I think we should be championing and celebrating, especially with this film. It
is not a sin if you decide to go see Benedetta. I mean, I don't know. Depends on your religion, I guess.
Sure.
I mean, I'm not gonna.
Is it a sin to enjoy it? Maybe, but sometimes,
you will be forgiven. I don't know by who, but definitely by us.
To quote the film, everyone is allowed to have a sin, and I think that's certainly one that I allow myself to have, at least.
Same here. All right, what do you think the Rotten Tomatoes critical score is for Benedetta out of 113 reviews?
Now, this one is tricky. I think most critics are favorable to positive on the film because they know what to expect with Paul Verhoeven. But there are some critics, for instance, the Associated Press, I believe, gave this like a 0 out of 5 stars or something like that. And it was like some ridiculous review. I read it, but it didn't.
Yeah, legendary review. No self-awareness. I loved it.
I really hope the marketing team behind Benedetta uses those quotes.
Yeah, they should have retweeted it.
Yeah.
Like, hey.
Right. Like, this is what critics are saying about our film and all that. But I think it's like 72%. That's my gut, is what I think it is.
83%.
All right.
The age of Paul Verhoeven.
Yeah. Yeah. No kidding.
Fitting. Yeah. Yeah. Great movie. And definitely critics are liking it quite a bit, a little bit more than you predicted. But what about audience score? We have fewer than 50 verified ratings, so who knows?
That's tricky. I'm gonna take a shot in the dark and say 85%.
Close-ish, 80%.
Okay.
So well done in your own way. You got pretty close. I'm proud.
Thank you.
All right, well, that is Benedetta. It is now playing in limited theaters. If you're listening to us from France, I think, and the Netherlands might have already played this too.
Yeah, like they're like, what took you guys so long?
Yeah,
You've been waiting.
Late to the party. Yeah, they had mass at 5 a.m. We're showing up next day.
Not to delay this anymore, but I think it's so funny that I saw this in AMC theater. Like, the fact that this played in AMC theater is so bonkers.
That's
to
fantastic.
me. You know what I mean? Yeah, but whatever.
All right. Well, yeah, you can check it out. It is 131 minutes long. I was actually surprised when I saw that. 131 minutes. This felt like 95 minutes to me. I don't know about you.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I 100% agree. It was like just the point where I was like, it's getting a little long. I was just about to kind of check my phone to see what time is, and that's when the credits came up. I was like, hot damn. Like, Paul Verhoeven knows when to get in, when to get out. Good for him.
Airtight. Thank you so much for listening to our show. Be sure to subscribe to Cinemaholics on your favorite podcast app of choice or find us on YouTube. See you all next time.